Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports. Today I have a very special guest with us. He did his education in Questron Business School in Boston. He's a founder of NXGN Sports Interactive, and he is the founder of the first India's only football fantasy app, 12th Man. I'm none other than Kush Desai with me. Welcome, Kush, on the show. I hope you're doing fine.
Hi, Abel. How are you? Thank you so
I'm
much
doing good
for
as well.
the introduction. And I just want to sort of set the record straight. We started off as a fantasy football app, but since then we've pivoted to becoming a fantasy sports and real money gaming platform. And one big piece of information that, of course, we can touch upon later is that we've also become India's first crypto-based fantasy sports and real money gaming app. We just launched our crypto wallet a couple of weeks ago, but we can get into that later.
Absolutely. We will definitely get into that. And, before we start the conversation, the first thing which I really want to ask you was every kid in India has that passion for sports, right? And that's how
Yeah,
you really grow up in our ecosystem. So I want to ask you, how did
100%.
that passion start for you, sir?
So I started following sports in general because of my older brother. He used to watch. He used to follow Manchester United, and I was a kid back then. This was 2003, 2004, and it so happens that the first club that you start supporting is usually the one your friends or your siblings support, right? So
Yeah.
Manchester United became the club I started following as well. uh, I used to play tennis a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and at one point I was just like, football's more of my sort of cup of tea, so I decided to follow football, just full time. So I started following United. I started playing football in 2006, 2007, and never looked back. Just fell in love with the sport and just dove in deeper and deeper. And lo and behold, I have a real money gaming and fantasy sports platform now.
That's fantastic. Now let's get to the journey of fantasy sports because you started off as India's first football only fantasy gaming platform. How has the
Correct.
journey been, and what was the entire idea into getting into a fantasy gaming platform? Because in India, you saw it has grown gradually. Initially, there was a period where people were reluctant to go into fantasy because they were unclear as to what fantasy is, how to differentiate with betting as well. So, how did you really break into the market at that point of stage?
So, to sort of give a broader understanding as to why I got into fantasy in the first place. So I've been following the Premier League for the longest time, and they came up with the Fantasy Premier League gaming
Yeah,
app.
yeah, FPL, yeah,
So yeah, FPL. So I started playing that back in boarding. So I used to go to a boarding school for my high school. So uh, it was just a sort of really good bonding activity between friends. So we started playing Fantasy Premier League. I think this was ninth grade, and
right.
that's when I started playing fantasy regularly. Of course, past 2 3 years I haven't been able to play that much. I make my team. I join the league with my friends, but I'm not as committed anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
that's when my interest in fantasy sort of got real. And I've been into gaming in general for the longest time, PlayStation, computer, all those. uh, and towards the end of my senior year at Boston University, everyone was applying for jobs, getting interviews at
Right.
the biggest companies, and I was really unsure as to what I wanted to do. The one thing I was clear about was I want to start something of my own. What I want to do was still a big question mark.
Mm.
And I was having a conversation with one of my really good friends, and he told me about Dream 11.
Right.
And this was back in 2018. So yeah,
Mm.
2018. And he told me about Dream 11. So I was like, this is cool. And
Yeah.
then I read up on the gaming space in India, heard that it was growing, and getting into fantasy was just this sort of marriage of two areas of interest, two big
Yeah.
areas of interest in my life: gaming and sports,
Yeah. Sports.
football
Yeah.
primarily. So I decided to just try that out. So my initial idea was that I'll only focus on fantasy football. So that's why we started off as a fantasy football app.
Yeah.
But initial sort of feedback from investors, etc. And the thing about fantasy is that while people are 100% reluctant, they were very reluctant. Now it's become well accepted within the sort of country.
Yeah. Yeah.
But having cricket was still something people can accept, but then being only football was something I found the investors sort of reluctant. I found it hard to sell to them, and our
Hmm.
initial users which we had onboarded after launch, they also started requesting cricket eventually, so
Absolutely.
we decided to sort of make that pivot. So that's actually, just to backtrack, that's how I decided that I wanted to get into fantasy and real money gaming.
Truly, and because I just want to ask a follow-up question on that as well, because now we've seen fantasy grow over a period of time,
Yeah,
and especially in the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen an upward climb of fantasy sports, and now it's part of the sporting ecosystem. You can say so. Now you are
100%.
seeing fantasy sports being out there during the telecast of matches, saying that these are the players to be picking, these are the points of players they've earned through the course of the match. How has that shift been from 2016 to 2022? You can say that shift has been a paradigm shift in the complete
Massive,
ecosystem
yeah.
in India. Just want to know that from
So,
you.
I mean, my sort of opinion on that is during COVID. So when COVID hit, fantasy had still not picked up as much, and when COVID hit, people were just seeking different forms of entertainment.
Right.
Being stuck at home, so you're using your devices a lot more. You are just having
Yeah.
you're just on social media throughout. You're looking for ways to stimulate yourself, just have fun,
Yeah.
do something different, and fantasy provided that outlet for people. Because while sporting events were shut initially, I think the IPL during COVID received a large surge in the fantasy space because people were stuck at home, and people unfortunately also lost jobs, etc. And
Yeah.
fantasy also provided that medium for making money, and at the same time, people were able to do what they enjoyed while making some form of side money or
Mm-hmm,
whatever.
mm-hmm, mm.
So I think at that point the surge began, and then Dream 11 becoming the title sponsor for IPL
I,
really helped all the other platforms get acceptance into the fantasy space.
yeah.
So I think that's when fantasy started becoming mainstream. People started following a lot of other platforms, and that's when and when sort of platforms see this level of acceptance, that's when the innovation starts kicking in. That because at this point you want to start differentiating now because you've started accumulating users on board, so you
Absolutely.
want to
Yeah.
provide something different. So
Truly.
that's when I think that's why it grew the way it grew.
True. Because, as you mentioned about it, because fantasy sports or gaming is just a complete experience or a package which is part of
100%.
a game which is being played out there. And that's why I would like to ask about you brought in Sunil Chhetri first up as the brand ambassador of the app. How was the experience like working with him? Because we all know the legend he is, the kind of reach he's got among the youth and even the football ecosystem right now. How was the experience working with him and what is the entire idea behind getting him on board?
It was, I mean, it was amazing. It was surreal. So the Sunil Chhetri you see on screen is exactly the person he is in person. He is down to earth. He's super professional. He gets to the set on time. So I've had two shoots with him, two I'd say 8 to 10 hour shoots. He'll get to the set on time. He'll get everything done. And so when you sign a brand ambassador, there are these contracts, right? So where
Mhm.
it specifically mentioned that the shoot duration can only be so much, this, that. But Chetri is the kind of person that in case you need to record something more or you're running overtime, he won't complain. He'll get on with the job, and he'll Sunil Bhai will get the job done. I
Absolutely.
call him Sunil Bhai because you just when you see him, he treats you like a younger brother, and that's the thing. So I had some really good conversations with him, and it was just he never sort of makes anyone around him feel like okay, I'm Sunil
Yeah.
Chhetri, and then it's you guys. He treats everyone well. He jokes around with everyone. He talks to everyone. So it's just like he's one of us. He's one of our friends. But at the same time, you look at him, you see, okay, he's the sort of Indian football legend who's
Yeah,
currently
absolutely.
just behind Ronaldo and Messi when it comes to active international goal scorers.
Truly.
So getting him on board. I think it was a no-brainer because I thought football only, India, Sunil Chhetri. That name just came up. I didn't even have to think about, sort of getting anyone else on board for a second. So the way I reached out to him was I went to his Twitter, and there was an
Mm,
email ID that, for business inquiries. This
yeah.
email you have to reach out to. So I sent them an email, and his agency, Fair Play Sports, the people who manage
Yeah.
him, I reached out to them. They reverted to me, I think, within a few hours, and then we were having phone calls, and then they flew down to Ahmedabad. Not Chetri, but his managers flew down to Ahmedabad in November 2019, and we finalized the details December 2020. I went to Bangalore to sort of get a few pictures with him, make the
Mhm.
contract official, and January 2020 he was onboarded full time, and we spent a good 2.5 years together.
Yeah, because you did mention about this entire phase, and when we all talk about this entire phase of 2020, 2021, it was where maybe at least for 6 months in 2020, you all saw the sports entire ecosystem being shut down. Did
Yeah,
it affect the fantasy gaming? Because you didn't mention that was a point of time where people also wanted some kind of entertainment, but there was no sports. So, how
yeah,
did you manage that particular time? Did you bring in some other features in your app at that point? Because you had to
yeah.
keep people involved.
So our official launch date, where we announced Chetri as our brand ambassador, it was May 23rd, 2020. But we had then done a soft launch a month prior to that. So if you recall, football restarted first week of June.
Yeah,
So if you look at it, we only had to spend that 1 or 2 weeks prior to
yeah.
football coming back. So
Mm-hmm.
what we decided was, so we had already created a trivia module beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
because so in this space you have to be careful about the games or features that you put out, because they have to comply with a certain set of
Yeah,
laws or rules that have been
yeah,
laid out by the government and the Federation of Indian Fantasy Sports.
yeah.
So we came out with trivia, and we didn't get much time to sort of build on that, because when you're launching, no one knows about your brand, so you need to first focus on driving people on board.
Mm.
So while trivia didn't have much traction, we just thought that this would be a good way for us to
Yeah,
weather out the storm and wait until football begins. But fortunately, April end, I think it was announced that football will resume in June, so that changed our plans. And June first week, I think Bundesliga started, and then Premier League,
yeah,
etc. resumed. So
yeah,
then we didn't have to sort of wait much. But I think some of the more established platforms, I'm not exactly sure how they dealt with it.
yeah. But yeah, I remember the 1st of June when Dortmund took on Schalke in that first game, and we all
Yeah,
were excited to see some bit of action. And
exactly.
finally, we got, and I can imagine everyone, including you, would have been all excited
Yeah,
for that.
100%. So I think there was also, so when the first football match, I think I the first football match I was watching. So I never watched Bundesliga, but I was watching. I think it was Bayern versus Dortmund.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
in the second week as well. So
So I mean, it was an empty stadium. You could hear, players kicking the ball. You can hear that sound of the ball. And I remember the group chat on our WhatsApp. So I think it was me or someone else who just sent a message that football doesn't, feel like football without the 12th man. So
yeah, yeah, true. I mean, that really sounds good. I mean, that's a
yeah,
good one. And yeah, it is at the 12th man. And now you have given the experience of a 12th man by
yeah,
picking the players as well. But, that's where as you mentioned initially regarding how we are having a revolution, and you're the first crypto only fantasy app as well. Now we are heading into that Web3 revolution at
yeah.
large. Now, VR, AR, all the experience. How do you think fantasy gaming is going to be part of it? Because it is going to be an essential part because it is part of the revolution as well.
So, see, I know a bit about the Web3 NFT crypto space. I know more about crypto and
Yeah,
NFT than, if we dive deeper, then so I know surface level tak.
yeah,
If,
that's
if,
okay.
if we dive deeper, then I might get lost, or I might just, say something wrong. But the basic understanding is that Web3 is receiving acceptance globally. I mean, there are big funds that are being set up to fund Web3 startups. So, and big, companies are also sort of supporting Web3. Nike acquired a Web3 platform called I think it's pronounced artifact, but it's
Mm,
spelled out RTFKT.
mm,
And they've come up with some sick, NFTs, and they're doing really well. So they are going into AR, etc. If you want to look into that later. So
yeah.
I think the point I was trying to make is that there's this acceptance at a global level now. India, when the acceptance comes in, is a question mark, because you have to create the entire market first. Currently, we are used to Indians are used to sort of quicker things. So UPI is
Mm,
one of the biggest things. So making Web3 that much simpler, because majority of Indian market in fantasy operates from the T2 T3 level.
yeah.
So getting Web3 down to that level of simplicity is a challenge. So
Right.
first you have to make sure that the T1 audience adopts it properly, and then you
Mm,
sort of optimize it further and get more
yeah.
people on. But fantasy and crypto, I think I don't know if you're aware of this platform called Sorare.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm not
Yeah,
really
so
aware of it.
based in Europe, it's a
Mm,
decentralized crypto platform. Again, I don't know the inner workings of it, but I
right.
think it involves NFTs, etc.
Right.
And India, there was this company called Rario, which got
Right. Yeah.
acquired by
It's yeah.
Dream 11. So they're also doing something in the Web3 space. I think they're launching something called D3,
NFTs and
which is their Web3 platform.
mm,
So the reason I got into this, and the reason we launched this, is because there's this level of acceptance that we're aware of, and there's also this understanding that
mm,
currently it's the mass adoption where it becomes sort of mainstream is ideally 5 to 10 years away. So what do you
yeah.
do in the meantime during this transitionary period where you want to get people used to the sort of crypto, NFT, Web3, all
Mm,
those terminologies, the workings of it? So what we came up with was we'll take it one step at a time.
mm,
The people in India know how trading, etc. works. Everyone has
right.
wallets. People know what MetaMask is. They know how to buy currency, sell currency.
Mm, mm, mm,
So
mm.
what we did was we thought that we'll keep it simple. We'll allow people to link their wallets to
Yeah.
the 12th Man app. We've so to make sure that we don't get classified as an exchange, what
Yeah.
we've done is you can deposit crypto, participate in crypto based contests, win crypto, and withdraw crypto. There's no conversion involved whatsoever, because we can't do that. So
True.
we thought that since this is the first step, this would be easier to get people hooked to, as opposed to launching an entire Web3 platform, then
Yeah.
spending much more to get people on board, and
Mm-hmm.
basically all those things. And the good thing over here is that this is an easier form to sort of convince people to buy into as
Yeah.
well. And the mistakes that we make over here will be lesser and smaller in size as compared to just launching an entirely new platform and not having the complete understanding of it. Because
That is very
in order
important. The
to,
information
yeah,
and
100%.
yeah.
If you want to run a Web3 platform, you need to understand the ins and outs of
True.
blockchain, crypto, all those things, and you need to hire the right people.
Right.
So I believe this is the sweet spot where you're essentially, I mean, in one line, you're essentially telling people, okay, instead of trading,
Yeah.
you can use that crypto to participate and win the same crypto, and then
True.
whatever. So yeah, so let's hope this works out. We don't know yet. We'll take a few months to realize whether this is something that's working out or not.
True, because I'll have a question on following lanes as well. Because one thing what we're seeing still to a certain people is how do you manage financial risk with the risk what you take by playing fantasy game? It's an experience, everything, but still people are going to incur some bit of financial risk. Certain states have also come with their own laws by even prohibiting fantasy apps to operate. For example, Karnataka was one of them to bring this up. Then High Court had to strike it down. So how does people manage that financial risk factor? Because it is still a factor ultimately when people look into it, but how do they manage it and go about it further in the fantasy gaming experience?
So I mean, you just have to make sure that So one thing that I sort of tell people is that so the big argument is fantasy a game of skill or a game of chance? And that's
Yeah.
why this entire debate, sometimes states would ask companies to shut operations,
Yeah.
then Supreme Court or High Court intervenes, then they resume operations. So the big argument over here is that okay, uh, if this is a game of skill, then this requires some data in order
Hmm.
to, you require some data to make a team.
Yeah,
So
true.
then
Yes.
the next part of this would be, do you follow the sport enough to make those decisions, to
Hmm.
understand the data, etc. If you ask me to make a cricket team, it'll be a gamble for me because
Hmm.
I don't follow cricket. I don't know what run rate is. I don't know the basic
Yeah.
things. I only know
Yeah.
6-4 out wide,
Hmm.
LBW, all those things I know. But that's not enough for me to make a sound decision when it comes to making a team. I know two, three players
Yeah.
here and there. So I can't even
Truly.
make an 11. Three players I'll be able to select if India's playing, and rest
Yeah.
would be a gamble on my part.
Yeah.
So financial risk is only when you are going into it blindly without considering, okay, I don't understand this fully, so I should
Yeah.
accept the fact that I there's a greater probability of me
Hmm.
losing my money.
True.
At
True.
the same time,
Absolutely.
you also have to be, conscious about the fact that I want to try this out, but I don't, this is my limit. I won't
Hmm.
put more money into this. If I reach this amount, I'll stop. But at that point, the mindset that kicks in usually is that, okay, I lost this much, now I'll put in this much and recover the money I lost. So that's
Absolutely.
a slippery slope, and that people talk about when it comes to going to casinos, etc. as well, right? That
I mean, so this is something very similar to some people who do not know. It's similar to trading as well,
yeah,
because you
exactly.
have financial risk even there, and you
So I
have
was
to
coming
ensure.
100%. So I was coming to that point. So same thing about the stock market. Now people lose their life savings, betting on stocks. That, oh, I got this insider tip that this will skyrocket. Where's the
Yeah.
data in that? That's a gamble. If you ask
Yeah.
me to pick stocks, I'll be able to tell you the blue chip stocks that, okay, get Apple, get Google, get Tesla,
Yeah.
because I know those are good companies. But what's my logic behind it? No logic. I just know that these are big companies,
These are
good
good
companies who've been around for some time.
companies.
But if I invest in some random company on, okay, there's a 50% chance of it going up, 50% chance of it going down. That I
Yeah.
know. That's again, that's me gambling on an outcome. So
Yeah.
everything involves some level of gambling, or
Yeah.
just betting. You just have to minimize those odds. So then the question is that how much data can you get on that thing, and how much, you can make it skill based for yourself. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Truly. Yeah, that's where I will come as we are in Mad Sports are also taking a course on fantasy sports. We're taking a boot camp run by Nikhil Popat. How much do you think these courses will really help people
I
understand
love Mad
fantasy?
About Sports. So I bought the football masterclass, or Python and football stats. I
Yeah.
think that was the first
Absolutely.
one. I got it last year. And then
Right.
after that course, there was this get a masterclass. It's 13,000, whatever. So I signed on for that as well. Unfortunately, I haven't completed either of those properly. I couldn't find the time. I really want to get into it because stats and data is something that interests me. But
Right.
I need to find a decent amount of time to, do it. But I think it's really important, and the sort of course you have guys put out
Yeah.
on fantasy sports. So
Hmm.
it's I think that it's these things which will, ultimately make fantasy more sort of education driven or data
And that's
driven.
where the game of skill also comes into play, right? You are
Yeah,
actually, kind of sharpening the skill of every player
yeah.
to educate people. This is a more game of skill than a game of chance.
100%. And I think so there are so many videos or books, etc., out there on
Hmm.
what formula to use when you're evaluating a stock. What
Yeah.
So
Truly.
I mean, if you look at it from a broader perspective, then you can classify players as stocks or teams as stocks, and then you
Yeah.
just have to look at the data behind them. That
Hmm.
ideally you won't get a Cristiano Ronaldo in your fantasy team this season because he's not firing on all cylinders, and Eric Ten Hag doesn't play him as much.
Yeah.
So if you're just sort of if you just come in with an outside perspective that, oh, Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best players on the planet, he has these many goals, he's done this, he's won these many
Hmm.
trophies. Of course, I have to have him in my team. Then
Yeah.
that's me being like, yeah, Tesla is a great company. I would buy into it.
Truly, truly. Yeah, that's where I just want to ask, you would be recommending all these courses, a lot of your users.
100%, 100%. It helps you out with two things, right? It teaches you about stats in general,
Yeah.
and if you're interested in fantasy, then it gives you the necessary skills to evaluate and make a team, and then you can
Mm.
always dive in deeper. Then you can
Yeah.
come up with Python and R one. You can get into AI next. You can come up with algorithms to
Mm.
come up with your own optimal 11, and that's
Yeah.
when it makes things more skill based.
Yeah, sports have become more stats driven and data driven in
Hundred
the
percent,
last decade or
hundred
so.
percent.
And even more so in all sports in these couple of years. Even cricket has become more data driven, the T20 format of things. That's why I'll be coming to 12th Man app. What can people expect from 12th Man app, and what is the experience going to be like if a new user is downloading it? And what is the experience you are going to be providing for new users?
So currently, I won't say that we are, that much different from your other fantasy platforms, because there's not much room for differentiation in India,
Yeah,
because you have to follow a certain set of principles. So when it comes to how are you different? Okay, we're different because we'll be providing games, we'll be doing this, we have crypto. So of course those things are different, but then it comes down to ultimately, the finer margins, that how smooth is your user experience, how quickly can they withdraw money. And in India currently it's a branding game. So the
yeah,
more you spend on branding, if 10 other people in the room have heard about 12th Man, then you're likely to get 12th Man.
right.
So currently that's the thing, but we're looking into different ways on how we can innovate. So one of the things we're doing in the RMG space with our games that start going live from the 15th of November is
Mm,
we're trying two things with we're trying two things with Ludo and chess, only the two games we are making changes to.
mm,
So we're moving them more towards the instant gratification side of things. So we've made them piece based or move based incentives, whatever you want, kill based incentives,
yeah,
whatever you want to
yeah.
call them. So in Ludo, if you land on someone's piece, the piece has to go all the way back, right? We
Yeah.
created a kill pool inside the game where every time you land on a piece, you make some money, up to
Wow.
a certain number of kills. Same with chess. Your pawns, knights, bishops, rooks, kings, and queens have different values, and once you take that piece off the board, you make some money.
Wow. That's very
So that's the sort of differentiation we are adding. Let's see how well that works out. But yeah, that's what we're doing in terms of fantasy. We are still, we just transitioned our entire app onto Flutter. So we
interesting.
did our entire UI UX. We changed our brand colors. We changed our logo,
Yeah.
because our logo made us appear as a football centric app for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
So we changed all those things. Our brand colors have changed to blue, white, and red.
Mm.
Uh, and now the focus is on, making this a, so as the name says, 12th Man is the fans. So
Yeah, true.
we want to become less salesy and move more towards the side of making this an app by the fans, for the fans, of the fans.
Wow, that's beautiful because fan engagement is one of the cornerstone of fantasy gaming experience, as you already told.
100%.
And I'm pretty sure this is gonna grow because like the new features which you have mentioned is fascinating, truly fascinating. And I hope you all check it out, the 12th Man app. It's a wonderful experience. I tried it out for the first time in 2021. I was undergoing a eye surgery and I couldn't watch a lot of sports at that time, and that's when I came across the app, and it was wonderful to play the IPL, the latter bit of IPL in that as well. So great to have you,
And
and it was
if
great.
you have a bad experience, please provide, some good feedback for us so that we can make the necessary changes, because I think that's the only way forward right now for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was truly good interacting with you, Kush, because great to
Likewise.
know your journey and great to know how developed, how fantasy experience is growing in our country and how people can really be involved in sports and fantasy experience at the same time. Wonderful to have
100%.
you on board, and we'll have
Thank you
more
so
of
much.
this chatter in future as well.
For sure,
And
for sure. And definitely, you guys are doing an amazing job with Mad About Sports, because I was just having a conversation with one of my friends. He basically got his coaching license in football, D level,
mm,
uh, I think a couple of years ago. And just a few months ago, we were talking, and we realized that, there's not enough material
mm,
for, we were talking about football education, so that
Yeah.
more coaches etc. can come out of India. So
Hmm.
there's no sort of place for good material manuals, whatever, what you have to do for D license, C license, how can you become a video analyst at a football club, all
Yeah.
those things. And you guys are definitely setting an example. So kudos to you, and I hope that you guys come up with even more courses, and hopefully I can complete a couple of them on time.
Sure, you will. And having said that, guys, thank you for watching us. Do subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram and check out our courses on fantasy sports and also on tactical masterclass and on cricket analysis as well. Have a good time, all of you. Stay safe. And thank you once again, Kush.
Thank you. Have a good day.